I remember my first night at Sleepaway Camp. I was going to the 8th grade. My parents decided that I was mature enough to live on my own for the last 6 weeks in the summer. I was a little hesitant going to camp. Being away from home for the first time scared me. I wasn't a dog. Even though I stuck my head out the window whenever my mom or dad would drive me to school, I couldn't sniff my way home. Sleepaway camp meant I, as a 12-year-old, would be surrounded by complete strangers and the things in the woods. The orientation on the first day at the camp was fun, to say the least. We played icebreakers and other various games to introduce ourselves. My favorite game personally was Around the World. My camp counselor started off the game and said, "We're going on a field trip around the world. I'm bringing donuts." It was obvious that you had to bring an item starting with the letter that your first name begins with. His name was Mr. David, so David had to bring donuts. Me, I said I'm going to bring Pringles because my name is Peter. After the icebreakers, we went on a scavenger's hunt. We had to find landmarkers and hidden trinkets all around the woods in the camp. At night, we played hide and go seek, roasted marshmallows, and my personal favorite, tell ghost stories. The camp counselors told several ghost stories. They all seemed so true. One of the camp counselors told a story called The Hook. And the hook was about a boyfriend and a girlfriend sitting alone in a car together. The radio was on in the car, and they were cuddling. The music stopped, and there was a radio announcement. There was an escaped mental patient running around the area they were in with a hook. The girl got scared and told her boyfriend, "We need to go home." They started to argue, but eventually he agreed. When he dropped her off, he went over to her side of the car and didn't open the door. He just kept staring at the door. She thought the door was broken, but when she opened it, she realized he was staring at the hook attached to the door handle on the passenger side in the car. The story seemed so realistic, unlike the ghost stories. A little after, we had to go back to our cabins. When we were inside of our cabins, my cabin mates and I stood up and began a pillow fight with each other. After the pillow fight, we decided that we should tell ghost stories as well. After the ghost stories, we all fell asleep. A little after midnight, our cabin door opened Our cabin door didn't have a lock on it. Therefore, anyone or anything can enter the cabin at will. The cabin door opened slowly, and there was a figure wearing a red hood over its face walked into the cabin. It was dark to see, but I was the first to notice that someone or something had walked into the cabin. I was the closest to the door. I opened my eyes slowly, not wanting to be detected, and saw this figure march around the room. The hooded figure stopped in front of one of my cabin mates' beds. It just stood there, and it reached out and tapped him on the shoulder. I saw the pale hand coming from out of the hood. Its long fingernails looked as if it has been trying to crawl out of a grave for hundreds of years. I saw that my other cabin mates were now awoke, but their eyes were squinting. They too didn't want to be detected. The hooded figure began to circle around the room again. This time, it stopped in front of my bed. It stayed there and pointed at me. I felt its finger in front of my face. I couldn't move. I didn't have sleep paralysis. I was frozen with fear. I tried to open my eyes slowly, and there was the hooded figure staring me right in the face. The hood hid his face. I couldn't see what it was. It left the cabin shortly after. I couldn't fall asleep that night. Later in the morning, I told my cabin mates what happened. They all saw what happened, but thought it was a nightmare. We decided that we weren't going to tell our counselor what we saw. Maybe it was a counselor trying to play a prank on us. The next night, it happened again. The red hooded figure came in a little after midnight and circled around the whole cabin. My heartbeat was pounding against my chest. I could hear the echoes of my heartbeat in my ears. Whatever it was heard my heartbeat as well. It came around to my side of the room and started staring at me. It left. I held on to my pillow. I don't know why I held on to my pillow. Perhaps it was a safety net. Maybe it was a form of protection. The next morning, I told my cabin mates what I saw again. I asked them if we should talk to a counselor now, and they said maybe it's the camp counselor pranking us all week since it's our first week at Sleepaway Camp. But I knew it wasn't a counselor. The next night, I wanted to stay up and to see what or who was behind the red hood. I placed my blanket under the blanket my parents sent me off the camp with. I also put my pillow underneath so it looked like somebody was sleeping. I hid under my bed, waiting for the figure to come back. In fact, it did come back. It crept around the room and stopped in front of my bed again. When I looked down, I didn't see any feet touching the ground. But how can this be? There's something obviously walking underneath it. It just stayed there. I finally got enough courage to pull on the red hood. When I did, there was nothing underneath it. It was just a red hood. I came from under my bed and I woke my cabin mates up. Guys, look! What was under this? What is this? I realized that the red hood was actually a poncho with our camp's name on it. It looked like an older poncho, perhaps from the 1960s or 70s. The next morning I took it to the camp director and said, I don't know what's going on at this camp, but something is totally off. And the camp director said, listen, that poncho used to belong to a camp counselor who worked here. One night, while he was in the cabin, someone told him a ghost story that scared him so bad he had a heart attack and died. Scary stories are not allowed to be told in the cabin, only in the woods. The counselor never liked outside. Therefore, that's the only place we are safe to tell scary stories. If you tell a scary story inside of your cabin, he will haunt you. I didn't believe it. So, that night, I forced my cabin mates and I to tell more scary stories. Once again, I hid under the bed. The ghost of the camp counselor came into our cabin. I saw him come in and leave as quickly as he can. A little after I got from under the bed, and all my cabin mates were asleep. I got into my bed and began to fall asleep when I felt something pushing the mattress from under the bed. My stomach starting to tighten up. My heartbeat slowed down. I looked under the bed and saw the red poncho.